Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Eve. We have a very interesting decision to make just as the start of the run, and that's the item Guillotine, which is one of the most controversial items in the game, I would say, at least among the fans. And the Guillotine is a very peculiar item because it has a lot of downsides, but it also has just a bunch of upsides. Let me try to explain what it does, because it's quite a complicated item. So first of all, when you pick it up, your head gets detached from your body and starts rotating around it, which means that basically now that you're shooting, you're not shooting from a stationary position, but the position of your head is always changing, which means that you have to kind of compensate for that. What could also happen, because as the head is spinning around your body, your head can get stuck in a rock, which means that if you shoot from a rock, those tears won't register or just won't leave because they will collide with that said rock. At the same time, the guillotine basically makes your head like an orbital, which means that if an enemy hits you in the head, you won't take any damage, and you can still use your head to deal damage, like with cube of meat or maybe the flies or just any other orbital that exists in the game. And that might make it very useful. So essentially, it's just like an orbital, but the only difference is that it changes the way you shoot. And I think that's, not I think, but I know that this is a very big problem, because as you play the game, you kind of make that subconscious connection that the head, you're basically controlling the head, not the whole sprite. And you don't really care about the body, because the body is not even visible most of the time when you're playing as a particular character. So you get used to that the head is basically your hitbox, and when you pick up this item, that perspective really freaks you out or maybe messes with your mind, just because you think that you should be avoiding your head, while in fact you should be avoiding your body. And I think that's the biggest tell of this whenever you're trying to leave the room, or maybe if you play this, if you have this item, if you try to leave the room, what happens to me a lot of times is that I'll try to hit the door, but I'll miss it just because I think the head is where my body is located and not the other way around. And it really messes with your perspective. So you might be saying, okay, but if it's that bad of an item, so if it messes with you that bad, why would you even pick it up? Well, besides giving a passive orbital, which means more defensive options and also offensive options, and I would never use this orbital normally just because it is so hard to control, but I would use it against someone like Mom, and I think orbitals in general are the best against Mom, just because she does stomp that foot down. You can really get in there and deal a lot of damage with it. But besides just that, it also gives you a damage up and also gives you a tear down delay, which means that you both deal more damage and shoot faster. And I think that trade-off is a very fair one, and while it might seem like you get just a bunch of stats, that really gets mitigated by the fact that sometimes you can't even shoot, like I said before, your head gets stuck in the rock and maybe you miss those tears, and at the same time it's just so much harder to aim that you basically need a damage up if you want to make this item fair. And I think this is a very good compensation, and sometimes I'll pick this item up and sometimes I won't pick it up. I think most of the time it just screws with you, but because this is supposed to be more of a me experimenting, trying out new things, maybe seeing if certain items work in situations, this is basically me trying to learn the game more. And when you're trying to learn the game, learning the game 500 hours in might sound a bit ridiculous. It's not like I never picked up the guillotine, but since there are so many item combinations, I think it's important to realize which items work well together. And I think part of that, or maybe just part of that being a better Isaac player, is trying to pick up items that are normally bad in certain situations. So I think picking items up like soy milk, if you just avoid it all the time, you might be missing on some very strong synergies with other items, or maybe just situations where that particular item might work. I think for that reason it's important to sometimes pick certain items up. I'm not saying that I'll always pick up the guillotine, but just because I feel like we've had a lot of very strong brimstone lump of coal runs, I think it's my time due to actually have a run that's maybe a bit weaker artificially, meaning that I pick up an item that I know is not that good for me. Even so, this still turned into a brimstone and lump of coal run, and that's just unfortunate, just because I feel like the past 10 or so dailies, most of the ones I've had a good score with, I was just lucky enough to get that combination. And obviously the combination of lump of coal and brimstone is enough to carry you through the game, and it deals an insane amount of damage. And the fact we also have a bunch of damage ups, just with the fact that we were Eve and we were always in the Whore of Babylon state, just makes this run for a walk in the park, basically. We really don't have anything to worry about. With that said, there were some quite interesting decisions to be made, especially on the second floor. So the second floor was a typical second floor, but again it had the Joker card, and it had a red chest which teleported to the devil deal, and it also had just a regular devil deal that you would get as you beat the boss. So the question is, if you know that there are red chests, let's say that somehow you gain the insight into knowing that a red chest will teleport you to the devil deal, or maybe you can just make an educated guess for whatever reason. So what is the best course of action in that situation? So which path should you take to get to the devil deal? And that's an interesting question, just because I don't know if there's any difference between going to the boss and getting a devil deal naturally, or maybe being teleported from the red chest. I think what happens in dailies, I believe, is that if you take different paths to the deal with the devil, you'll get different items or different outcomes. That means if you pop the Joker card, or maybe if you go to the red chest, or if you go naturally, the items in the devil deal will be different, which means that people can have vastly different runs depending if they find that red chest, or maybe if they visit the boss first and then go to the red chest, etc. But what happens the first deal that you get, so maybe let's say that you go to the boss and get the devil deal, and then you find the red chest, you'll still get teleported to the same devil deal. It's not like you'll get two different devil deals on the same floor, but the initial devil deal that is generated, which items are in it, maybe if it's Krampus or not, is dependent on which way you access it. And for that reason, it's quite peculiar, I would say. I mean, it's always a good idea to keep a Joker card for a floor that you know that you're not going to get a devil deal, which either means keep it until you get to Shoal, or maybe the Cathedral, or anything like that, or keep it until you're on a floor that you naturally beat, maybe explore the entirety of it. You know that there's no red chest which can teleport you, and you know that you didn't get the devil deal naturally through the boss fight. And then you use the Joker card in order to get an additional devil deal that otherwise you wouldn't get. And that's what I tried doing in this particular run. But what happened on the third floor, where I didn't get a natural devil deal, I forgot to use my Joker card. So I just went to the next floor. And because how this game works, then it's almost guaranteed that you're gonna get the devil deal again on the fourth floor if you didn't get it on the third floor. So, of course, that's exactly what happened, and I got the Brimstone, and that's quite unfortunate when you think about it, because the fact that I forgot to use the Joker card, if I did use the Joker card, there would be a less chance for me to get the devil deal on the fourth floor, which means that there would be less chance for me to get Brimstone. So my negligence in this situation actually turned out again to be quite good, and again, I did get luckier than maybe intended, and I don't know, maybe other people found the devil deal too, and it's very possible that you still get it, even if you did use the Joker card on the third floor. But I'm saying that there's a possibility that if you did use the Joker card on the third floor, that we wouldn't get the devil deal on the fourth floor, meaning that we won't get Brimstone. But either way, just because of how this run went, we have the Ivy Bag, we have the Sack Head, we have the 1+1 item, the Humbling Bundle, and we just racked up a lot of points. We did explore most of it just because of that crazy combo. Sadly, we did get hit a few times, but that's mainly due to Guillotine and the fact that it messes with your perspective, and I think when you have the Guillotine, it's to be expected that you're going to hit a few times. But still, we did have a very strong run, which means that we, I think, minimized that damage. I love our item penalty just because it's -1, 2, 3, 4. So that's quite a lovely coincidence. But overall, 10th. I'm very happy to be again in the double digits. We had 2 runs in a row where I think I was in the triple digits, and that's no fun. I think it's much better when we are actually in the double digits. We're almost in the single digits, just 1 off from rank 9th. But still, I would call this a very successful run, and I'm glad we're back in it, and I hope that we grab the horse by the saddle, or whatever you grab the horse by, and we can continue this streak for days to come. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.